What's up, guys? My name is Zero Heroes, and welcome back to more Gates of Hell. And today we're going to be looking at another development diary that Gates of Hell or Barbara Studios has published, which was on the 12th of September. So this is 2 days after this was posted, and this is 134. It's been a lot. I remember when the first one came out, and that was absolutely feels like ages ago. Yeah, then again, it has been ages because this game has come so far. And one of the main topics today, or the main event today that we'll be talking about, is USA vehicles. So as you can see, there's already a hint on the screen, two hints on the screen of what vehicles are to come, such as the Super Pershing and just the M26 Pershing. So these should give you a few hints of what vehicles are to come, because to be honest, the Super Pershing is one of my favourite American made tanks during the Second World War. So honestly, just an absolutely love it in World of Tanks as well. It's just got that, it just looks so cool and I absolutely love it. Anyway, so as you know, I have this kind of been split down into sections, and I have actually made a Word document regarding all these points, or I've pointed out, I've made points basically of what I feel are relevant to this update, and I'll be going through them as quickly as I can. And something I did actually notice is that when you scroll up, it does say the Liberation Visual Catalog Part 1, so that kind of gives me an idea of that there'll be another Visual Catalog Part 2, so that'll hopefully be coming out maybe soon, maybe it's next week, or I don't know, but that kind of gives me a just of that there is a second part to come out of this, so just to bear in mind. But before I go into the Word documents of all the topics, I just would like to read this this part here, just for a wee introduction, and then we'll get into the topic. So it says community members, if you have been with us since before we released Ostfront, you may remember we presented the original Ostfront fighting units, in which we called Visual Catalog and Development 85 and 86, which I do remember. I think there's possibly a video that I did for it. I'll need to, if there is, and I'll link it down below, but if not, then you can go back and check it out. That catalogue has been since become outdated because the number of units in Ostfront has risen dramatically since we first published it. However, back in 2019, it felt good to be able to present our vehicles visually. The community definitely liked the idea, so we thought we'd repeat this for Liberation and show you some units we intend to include in the DLC. Absolutely great. Thank you, Barbara. This is something that I feel like this is really important to the game, because as you know, a game like this, an RTS game like this, should be keeping visually, you know, the game absolutely stunning and really good and up to date. So I'm really glad they're telling us about they know that it's outdated, and they know that they do need to update it, and they're actually telling us this now. So I'm really glad the Gates of Hell or Barbara Studios has brought this to our attentions, because definitely I agree, it definitely was outdated, and it definitely does need a big update visually wise. So I'm really glad. Props to you for Barbara Studios for releasing that. Okay, let's now go to so that was kind of like the introduction of kind of what it is. Let's now go to the word point, and I want to show you some key topics that will be in this, is in this article. So of course you've got the main one, personally for me, my most exciting one, which is the US tanks, and then you've got your armored cars, your weapons, support vehicles, and then like a wee last kind of addition to this is German equipment, which I know doesn't kind of really line in to this topic or to this development diary, but I feel like it's still important to mention, as it is it is crucial to the Liberation DLC. Okay, so let's get started on this. So it says here, I'll tell you some points that I've got here, but then I'll also be reading kind of some important parts out on the development diary here as well. So it says, as some of you history buffs will understandably know, there used to be quite a variety or a lot of range of Shermans in existence. So that's why I've put the first point for different types of Sherman vehicles, and it varies to a certain degree. And the reason is because that it's based on experience, but lots of details changes were made in the original design. Yeah, so, and what it means is that, as you know, through World War II, there was so many different designs of Sherman tanks, such as the original tank, the original Sherman. You've got, I believe, the E8, the EZ8, the Fury. You've also got, to us, I can't think of the amount of, I can't think of the names of the Sherman tanks, but there was a lot of them. Goes on to talk about the support from World War II armor, and what World War II armor is that Barber Studios teamed up with World War II armor, and what World War II armor is that they're World War II kind of vehicle historians company. That's a really bad way of describing it, but basically they started off with the Jeep, so they kind of talk about like the armored cars and how the Jeep led to armored cars, the M20, the M5 Stuart tank, and then eventually the M4 the M4 Sherman tank, and then even the M18 Hellcat, and then led on to M36 Jackson tank destroyer. So this World War II armor has lots of information about how kind of the Jeep kind of turned into armor trucks and tanks. And if you do want to have a read of this, then I'll leave it in the description down below. But they basically teamed up with Barber Studios to get as accurate as possible for modeling wise on the input of Sherman tanks into the game. And then it kind of goes on to, it says that there'll be more tanks to be modeled, and there's some pictures there that I'll show you. So yeah, it's, to us, I'm very excited to see like all these different type of Sherman tanks. And the way I hope it goes in is that when the American faction does come in, I hope it's not maybe like 3 or 4 Sherman tanks coming into game. I want to see like 6 Sherman tanks come into this game, and I know that that's a lot to ask, just especially that America is a new faction, and I know Borwar Studios does have a lot of other units and vehicles to add into the game, but I would like to see a large range of Sherman tanks, not just a couple, because honestly, I would like to test out what type of Shermans, to test them out in the battlefield, whether they're useful against certain type of vehicles, infantry. So I would like a large degree, or as they use the word, a large variety. That's it, a large variety of Sherman tanks. So this is something that I really hope does come into the game, especially the faction. And what I'll do is I'll actually show you some of the pictures as well that they've got into the game. So as you can see right here from this picture, you have, of course, your original Sherman tank here. You've got a Sherman here that looks like with a 76mm gun possibly, and you've also kind of got the EZ2, I think it is, with that kind of that 105mm gun, as well as some other Sherman tanks. So this is really cool to see, and I hope kind of all these vehicles do come into the game, because it looks like it already has, and it's absolutely amazing. So this is type of the level I expect to come into the type of level of Sherman tanks to come into the game, because it is very crucial that, because there were so many Sherman tanks made during the war, I kind of expect a high degree of Shermans to go into the game as well. So that is kind of the rundown on the US tanks. Of course, it's not just Sherman tanks that go into the game. Of course, as you saw in the thumbnail, there'll be like the Super Pershing, there'll be the Pershing, there'll be the M36 Jackson, the M18 Hellcat, half tracks, tons and tons of tanks and armored cars will be in. Moving on to now armored cars. So as you know, the US Army commissioned several extremely successful vehicles in the 30s and 40s all over the world. Yeah, that's very true. So which kind of led on to I forgot, is it the M something half track? I forgot the name. The M3 half track, I think it's called. During the World War II, the US arsenal was expanded massively, correctly anticipating the need for mobility in future wars. The US Army commissioned a number of extremely successful vehicles, as I said, in the 30s and 40s that became known and used all over the world. As said, the word iconic doesn't even begin to cover the reputation and the fame of the Jeep. And that's kind of where the World War II website kind of came in, which talks about kind of the history of the Jeep, which led to those half tracks and tanks. Again, that website will be linked down below. And then, of course, it does kind of say a wide range of a range of vehicles emerged based on the scout car, which was true. So again, talking about that website, just a scout car or a Jeep was based on it, and then that scout car that was made, what inspired a series of half track and evolved into such a wide range of different half tracks. Which again, I'm still absolutely amazed by how a Jeep managed to kind of inspire, or even just a Jeep kind of managed to kind of turn into kind of like a half track or a scout car, and then that one scout car turned into a whole inspired series of half track, which kind of blows my mind because I didn't actually know that. So it's really, really cool to see it. And again, that World War II armor website has a lot of information on it, and I read a wee bit, so definitely worth a read and definitely have a look. Also says the different types of armored cars were also developed and will be present in the Liberation DLC. Yes, like I said, I don't know what type of half tracks will be there. I presume there'll be one like with the 50 cal on top of it. And I'm not have a great amount of knowledge on my half tracks. So if you guys know more about half tracks and what different vehicles could be in the game, then leave it in the comments down below, because I would love to hear what you guys have to say and your knowledge of vehicles on the half tracks. Oh, sorry, I actually forgot to show you the some of the images that Ostfront took. Oh, by the way, here's some like the tank destroyers as well, the M36 Jackson and the M18 Hellcats, and I think that's also a Wolverine as well. Of course, you got your Super Pershing and your Pershing. You got a Chaffee even as well, which I completely forgot to talk about. And then these are some of the half tracks here, which look absolutely amazing. One's even got like a cover on it, which I haven't seen before. And then one's of course got like two large 50 cals. I think one in the front and one in the back. So some really cool designs here, and as you can see, a lot more here. You get like the wee scout car here, which kind of turned into kind of like, you even got like an AA half track, which I remember you've kind of, I believe you have also kind of like a mortar half track as well, which I think is also, but you've got those AA ones. You've got there you go, there's one with the mortar in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. I'll zoom right in. That's far too much because now I've lost the place. Yeah, so there's one with mortars and one that's just carrying troops. So you've also completely forgot, you've also got ones with kind of anti-tank guns on them as well. So this could absolutely be crucial for taking out just tanks if you don't have enough for a proper tank. So that's really, really cool here to see there as well. And you've also got your I don't know what the Greyhounds, I believe they're called Greyhounds, which look absolutely dope. So one with I think 37mm, and then there's one just with a 50 cal again. So looking absolutely sick there. All right, moving on to weapons. So weapons, all of the heavy weaponry the US Army used throughout the European campaign, only a few are really as famous as some of the tanks and vehicles, even though tanks and armored cars are in the limelight a lot more. Yeah, so kind of so they're basically saying that tanks and armored cars are more popular, or more well known than kind of the heavy artillery. But the heavy artillery still played an important, crucial role during in Europe during the war. So heavy artillery, and these will include like artillery, AAs, AT guns, and a lot more. And it does say that these weapons are obviously played an important and sometimes the most important role in the battlefield, such as probably Normandy. And of course, the majority of these weapons will be present in Liberation. So as you can see here, as I said, they will be in Liberation and will be played an important part in the role of the battlefield. So that could be interesting. So if you do the American campaign, you'll probably might have control on some heavy artillery, which could be really crucial to turning the tide of the game. And here are some like artillery pieces that I thought I'd show you some pictures of. So you kind of got your AA guns, you've got your massive artillery piece. Again, I don't know the exact name of these. I think that one there where my mouse is right, I think that's a 152mm artillery piece. Again, I don't know the exact names for I don't know the exact name for these, and I think that's possibly a 75 or 105mm anti-tank gun, but I don't know the exact caliber of the guns, but I know these are the heavy artillery pieces that will be in the game, which absolutely look amazing. Probably even enough to scare the Russians off. Alright, so now let's look at the support vehicles. So support and logistics are essential to to conduct warfare and are like, as for every faction, support and logistics are essential in the game. Kind of going on from that, they say we have already hinted at the presence of the Red Bull Express and Liberation, as I've said here, and where it will be available through Doctrine. So the Red Bull Express will be in the Liberation DLC and will be available through Doctrines. Now, if you don't know what the Red Bull Express is, I had to do a wee bit of research on this as well because I had no idea what this is. But the Red Bull Express was a famed truck convoy system that supplied Allied forces moving quickly through Europe after breaking out from D-Day beaches in Normandy 1944 to expedite cargo shipments to the front. Truck emblazoned with red balls followed a similarly marked route that was close to civilian traffic. The trucks also have plenty of regular roads, so it's kind of like, I guess, like a decoy, I guess, to kind of fool the Nazis. The Axis, and then conceived in an urgent 36-hour meeting, the convoy system began operating in August 25th, 1944. So yeah, that's kind of like the wee bit history of the Red Bull Express. So you'll have that as a doctrine in the game as well. But the individual vehicles are separately available through the DLC as well. So everything else, all the individual vehicles are, separate on their own through the doctrines and will be also available. That's kind of self-explanatory. I don't know why I needed to explain that. Okay, and going on to the last part of this development diary, which kind of talks about German equipment, and I know that's kind of not about the whole point of this was about the USA faction and the vehicles. This is also quite important, I wanted to point out as well. So in this, they've kind of Barbara hinted earlier in the Liberation DLC that they will also contain a good number of new German vehicles and weapons, and they didn't say in this development diary what those weapons and vehicles are, but more details will be given in the next blog update, which hopefully should come out soon. So there you go, guys. That is it for this development diary 134. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you enjoyed about this update. Was it the US tanks that you're most looking for? Especially for me, about the Super Pershing, one of my favorite tanks, or is it the wide range of armored cars, or the heavier weapons, which include big 155mm guns, which probably will tear a hole or a crater in the ground? Or are you actually looking for the new German equipment, which will hopefully be announced really, really soon? But anyway, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year. If we could do that, that could be amazing. But anyways, thank you so much for watching and our support, and I will see you in the next video. See you later, and goodbye.